Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello everyone, how you guys all doing? Hope you're all doing well. Excuse me, I just literally drank a whole ton of water because I've recorded 20 videos today, guys. 20, yes, 20. And this is the second live stream tonight, and we've got a Discord after chat as well. So yes, that's how my voice is doing today. But hope you guys are all doing well. Hope you had a good Monday. For those of you, might be different time zones, but hope you guys are all doing well. We've got 6 different stories to look at here on the Viewpoint, where we specifically cover UK news. Got some interesting ones, that is for sure, guys. So I'm very keen to hear what you guys have to say about that. But before we get started, just want to say hello to Billy Kershaw, Stephen Banker, Jow, one of our moderators. Do check out his YouTube channel if you get a chance to as well. Billy Kershaw, James Connery, Richard Grumpy Git. Hope you are all doing well. Dave McGuinness, good to see you there as well. Pete's Music, everybody always jams to Pete's Music. Good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. And anybody else lurking in the chats. And yes, Giles provide the link to Davy's YouTube channel as well. I was there for the show. I was just working in the background. That's why I didn't really talk too much, in case anybody was wondering where I was, just for reference there. Date and time of this live stream, just for reference for those who watch this back, not live, is on the 15th of September 2025 at 8 PM UK time. And we are dual streaming on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/Reganelite1 for reference there as well. And you always have one thing you're guaranteed on Twitch, guys, is to have the whole chat to yourself. Very rare that I have 2 or 3 people in that chat at once. So just wanted to let you guys know that. Right, let's get started with the first one here, guys. It's quite a lot to cover. I really have a hard time believing you, Keir. I really do. So I would never have appointed Peter Mandelson if I had known what I know now. So as questions about his judgment mounts, the Prime Minister breaks silence over the sacking of ambassador to the US. So I've seen 1 or 2 articles that have stated that the Prime Minister was aware before PMQs about Peter Mandelson. And I'm in agreement. I think he knew. And I think this is all a ploy to basically try and protect Morgan McSweeney, because the main story is Morgan McSweeney was the one who pushed and advocated for Peter Mandelson to be in the US ambassador role. Despite all the problems that surrounded it, he was the one who made the call at the end of the day and pushed it in. And because of that, this is the situation we find ourselves in. Keir Starmer taking the brunt of it. If anything, I really do think Labour's directions and fortunes may actually change if they got rid of Morgan McSweeney. I think he's the main culprit. He's the main problem here, because I'm hearing non-stop a lot of blame being put on him for what's happening with Labour right now. But that doesn't mean that the buck shouldn't stop with Keir Starmer as well, on this as well. But to claim that he didn't know is just folly. I mean, it's just you're just treating people like idiots. I mean, especially those who pay attention to the news and politics. There'll be some people out there who might believe it, but right now Keir Starmer is very unpopular, and the reason he's unpopular is because he's not dealing with a lot of issues. We've got a cost of living crisis right now, and that's not being dealt with, unfortunately. David, good to see you there. I hope you are doing well. It's really rough right now, guys. And things are about to get worse, as I've covered in one of my videos, is that obviously the visit of Donald Trump's going to be coming as a state visit, which I'm sure everyone is looking forward to. So Keir Starmer has broken his silence about sacking Peter Mandelson as a US ambassador over his envoy's close friendship with the financier Jeffrey Epstein. So amid mounting questions about his political judgment, Starmer was asked why Lord Mandelson was appointed in the first place, given that the Labour peer's friendship with Epstein had long been public knowledge. I should point out as well, excuse me, that it was also mentioned as well, didn't we cover a question back in, like, he was asked about this in 2019 as well? I'm sure he was asked about this in 2019 as well, and he completely forgot about that. Starmer said, had I known what I know now, I would have never appointed him. Well, it wasn't. The thing is, again, I don't honestly believe it was all on Keir Starmer. I do believe a lot of it is on Morgan McSweeney there. Prime Minister backed Mandelson in the Commons on Wednesday, but sacked him a day later. Absolute joke. He was aware when he stood up at Prime Minister's questions on the Wednesday that further revelations were due to be published about Mandelson, because the ambassador had already acknowledged that very embarrassing messages would surface, and yet he still tried to defend the impossible. And I remember we were talking about it on last Wednesday's live stream. We were just saying just how it's insane that he was defending him. Good evening, Ellie. Good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. Starmer knew the Foreign Office had asked Mandelson questions about those emails before Prime Minister's questions, but has since insisted he did not know about the content of those emails or Mandelson's response to the official inquiries until Wednesday night. The Prime Minister only withdrew his support for Mandelson on Thursday morning over the emails from Mandelson to Epstein that Bloomberg published. They were from 2008, in that Mandelson suggested Epstein's sentencing for soliciting a child for prostitution should be challenged, and that Epstein should fight for early release shortly before he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. That was kind of knowledge there beforehand. So, asked whether he'd been briefed properly on the issue before facing MPs, Starmer said, "What I knew before PMQs was that there had been media inquiries. I didn't know about the contents of the Bloomberg emails, and I knew that questions had been put to Peter that he had not yet answered. And he had to answer them by the time I got to PMQs. So this whole thing is a farce. He should have just dumped him before PMQs. He really should have done. There is, of course, a lag time in America, but I knew that there were questions that had to be put to him, but I didn't know the answers he was going to give to those questions. Came later on Wednesday, and that's why at that point I gave the answer I did at PMQs, and that's the extent of what I knew at the time." Mandelson also reported to have told Epstein, "I think the world of you," the day before Epstein began his sentencing for solitary prostitution from a minor in June 2008. Starmer said, but by Wednesday evening, after looking at Mandelson's responses to questions that have been put to him by official government officials, he did not find them at all satisfying. Yeah, I would say that. Despite Starmer's attempts to address concerns over Mandelson, there is dissatisfaction within the Parliamentary Labour Party over the PM's leadership. After the handling of Andrew Rayner's resignation, the reshuffle then followed, and then Mandelson's sacking. I just think it probably would have the damage, the moment Peter Mandelson was tied in this whole Epstein file thing, he should have just gone right there and then and got rid of him. Should have just gotten rid of him and just taken the hit. But he let it drag, and then he waited for more revelations before taking the bullet. He should have done it a lot faster. Last week, The Guardian reported that a government advisor said they raised informal doubts within Whitehall about Mandelson's 2005 association with the Russian billionaire Oleg Deposkia. Can't even say that surname. But said they were reassured that he was a good appointment because he was such a master of the dark arts. The Prime Minister insists Mandelson went through proper due diligence process before his appointment. No, I did not. I have a very hard time. About that. Starmer said the nature and extent of the relationship being far different to what I understood to be in the position of the point of appointment. Question and challenging of the conviction, which goes to the heart of cuts across what this government is doing on violence against women and girls, and the unsatisfactory nature of responses from Peter Mandelson last week to the inquiries made of him by government officials. I took the decision to remove him. Despite the widespread anger over the Prime Minister's handling of the episode, ministers have continued to praise Mandelson's singular talent, citing them as why he was seen as worth the risk. Yeah, that massive big defence by West Streeting did not go well for made West Streeting look like a total prat. But then again, we already know that West Streeting is a total prat anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's already bad enough for Keir Starmer. And it's going to get a lot harder for him this week. I honestly don't. There is a part of me that's thinking that if this week really does bad, he has a tendency, and I've said this in my video, but I'll say to you guys here. I do think that one of the things, with the exception of what's happening in the Middle East, very good. Keir Starmer was very good on the international stage, with the exception of Gaza and the Middle East. I think how he's been handling himself with the relationship with the European Union, I think it's been very, very good, very positive. I think how he's handled Donald Trump in America has been very good. So I think that's one of his strengths. Obviously, him not doing anything about Israel is absolutely outrageous. But in terms of handling Donald Trump, I think he's handled it a lot better than most other prime ministers would have done in his situation. Considering how volatile he's going to be, And you're going to hear non-stop about free speech from Donald Trump when he comes over as well. So that's going to be a suspicion as well. I suspect Mandelson was a Trumpian nomination. Yeah, I think we said that as well about it, that because both of them were fans of Epstein, and that made the relationship a bit easier. I think that was another thing as well that played a part in that as well. But the truth is, we don't honestly know what was said behind closed doors. But the other thing as well is that if Keir Starmer and the government knew about the close relationship, they should have known that he would have been in the Epstein files. They should have known he would have been in the Epstein files, and they would have met, and then they could have pushed back against Morgan McSween, saying, "Look, it's not going to work. It's going to come back and bite us." But Scott, good evening. Good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. But it's a story that's never going to go away, guys. So one of the big stories that I briefly touched on this morning, but I want to cover it a bit more in detail here, was a defection, and not just any defection. So a Conservative MP, Tory MP, and Shadow Minister, Daniel Kruger, defects to reform. This is not just another backbencher. This is not like Natalie Doris or Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's still crying, begging for reform to come and pick him up because he doesn't want to ask to join. He basically trying to give signals saying, "Oh, please offer me a lot of money so I can join your party and be the centre of attention again." But I think this once again, like, I'm using this, like, you might as well just call the Reform UK Conservatives 2.0, because they keep bringing up and grabbing Conservatives left, right, and centre. They just keep grabbing Conservatives, but all of them have to toe the Farage line. That's the one thing they all have to do. As long as you have to toe the Farage line, that's the one thing you have to do when you join this party. Whereas at least in the Conservatives, it's not that bad. But I think Max did a video on this, and he's absolutely right when he's saying that this is really, really bad for the Conservatives. It's very, very bad for Kemi Badenoch. It's a real gut blow for her and her party, because really everyone knows the Conservatives are falling, but the problem is that they're still not realising it. The Conservatives, it's still not getting into their heads that, you know, you haven't said sorry for the 14, 15 years you guys were in power. You haven't changed the guard. You've still got the same people in and around the shadow cabinet. And it's like, you're not changing your stripes. You're not changing anything. And all you're doing is just literally copying reform on a lot of things. So why should people vote for you? Like, where's the enthusiasm to stay there? And Nigel Farage said this morning as well that there may be more in the tracks. It's obviously, it's one thing for councillors to defect. It's one thing for from those who aren't in the House of Parliament to be defecting, but to defect an actual Tory MP, that should be raising flags. That is for sure. So, Conservative MP Daniel Kruger has become the first sitting Conservative MP to defect to Reform UK. He has been an MP since 2019 and sat on Tory leader Kemi Badenoch's team as Shadow Work and Pensions Minister. So, not just an MP, but someone who's in the shadow cabinet and walked out on her as well, just to add insult to injury as well. The Conservatives are over, he told a press conference sitting alongside Reform Party leader Nigel Farage. Kruger said it had been an honour to be asked to help Reform prepare for government, and he said he hoped that Farage would be the next Prime Minister. The East Wiltshire MP, who said he would not be triggering a by-election, said the Conservatives were no longer the main party of the opposition. So basically, this is him basically saying, screw you, constituents, you don't get a say. I'm going to be your MP whether you like it or not. Whether you like reform or not, you're getting a reform, an MP in your area, whether you like it or not. Screw democracy there. It should be enshrined in law that if you switch political parties, you must have a by-election. Should be in law. It's nonsense that you can't have a by-election. He said there have been moments where I've been very proud to belong to the Tory party, he added, but the rule of our time in office was failure. Yep, that's true. Bigger government, social decline, lower wages, higher taxes, and less of what ordinary people actually wanted. Yeah, you know, the big austerity thing didn't really work out for you guys. You kind of left us, you know, down in the drain, you know, to be fair. So many Conservatives to co-form the same bunch of useless crooks as Stephen Banker. Yeah, that is the case. It's just what they're doing. So reform is being led by a French Hungary and claims it is Britishness, says Jow. Essentially, yeah. They're trying to claim like we are the real British party, I suppose. There. Hello, Folly Spar on Twitch. Good to see you there. He added, this is my tragic conclusion. The Conservative Party is over. As a national party, over as the principal opposition to the left. Although he said he had a great regard for Bagenot, he said that the Tory party had a toxic brand, adding, we have had a year of status and drift in the sham unity that comes from not doing anything bold or difficult or controversial. This is absolutely true. Kemi has done bugger all. What has Kemi Bagenot actually done? What has she done since she's come into power? Bugger all. Okay, she had it's the first time she actually looked like she threw punches at Keir Starmer at PMQs. Okay, well, that's to be fair, most of those were unforced errors by Keir Starmer. It's not errors it's not something that you slipped up on. Describing the move as leaving the party as being a member for 20 years as personally painful. He said his mission with reform would be not just to overthrow the current system, but to restore the system we need. It's not going to be a system that's going to benefit us, ordinary people. Responding to the news of the decision, Bagenot said, Danny has made his case very, very clear, and this is not about me. Oh, okay. So it's nothing to do with you, right, Kemi? Nothing to do with your leadership whatsoever. Okay. I can't be distracted by that and not going to get blown off course by these sorts of incidents. Well, you should take it seriously. I know this is the sort of thing that's going to happen while the party is changing and making sure people understand what Conservative values are. And what are Conservative values? Oh, that's right. You're just copying reform right now. Kruger's deflection is damaging for Bagenot, not only as a Tory thinker and a veteran, but also most significant among several from the party moving to reform. Speaking after the press conference, Kruger told the BBC he had come to the conclusion that the Conservative Party doesn't have any chance of winning the next election. A few weeks ago, Kruger said he agreed with reform on many issues except public spending, telling MPs in July there is a problem that they would spend money like drunken sailors. Asked about his comment, Kruger says, I think we're all sober sailors now. I'm glad to say, because since I said that, reform have corrected their position on welfare spending. No, they haven't. They want to cut it to the bone. They literally want to, it's bad enough that the Labour Party wanted to cut disability benefits, or shall I say Morgan McSweeney and those in cabinet. But yeah, you want to basically essentially cut the life support of people, which essentially would kill them. I've made it very concerned that we need to really reduce the overall benefit spending. Nigel made it clear he also wants to bring down overall benefit spending, but he doesn't want to support family. But he does want to support families with children. Kruger is the second Tory MP to join Reform UK. Lee Anderson, who was previously a Tory MP, sat as an independent before joining Reform in 2024. Reform now has 5 MPs in the Commons, having seen 2 of their MPs elected in the 2024 general election. Rupert Lowe and James McMurdoch leave the party. In 2005, Kruger was working at the Conservative campaign headquarters when he was selected as the Conservative candidate to stand against the then Prime Minister Tony Blair. However, he stepped back over comments about wanting a period of creative destruction in public service. His political jobs have included serving as former Prime Minister David Cameron's speechwriter, penning the Hug a Hoodie speech, and as a former political secretary to Boris Johnson when he was Prime Minister. Keen Brexiteer, Kruger described the Brexit vote as a heroic blow for the better model, and in May this year he criticised reform for piggybacking on the Tories' work during the debate on Brexit in a desperate search to be relevant to try and catch up with the Conservative Party. Oh, how it has changed now. In 2023, Kruger was one of the speakers at the National Conservatism Conference, an event organised by the far-right wing think tank from the United States. He told delegates that marriages between men and women were the only possible basis for a safe and successful society, and that one was why the society should be recognised and rewarded. So basically, you're against people being able to have freedom of choice. Oh, that shows what kind of person you really are. Kruger is the son of a TV chef, Pure League, and is an old Etonian, of course, an Etonian, studied at Edinburgh and Oxford University before becoming director at the Centre for Policy Studies and later senior fellow at the Leamington Institute. A Labour Party spokesperson said Nigel Farage can recruit as many failed Tories as he likes. It won't change the fact that he has no plan for Britain. Yep, he doesn't have a plan for Britain, that's true, but your plan sucks right now, Labour. Britain deserves better than reform. Tory tribute acts would leave working people paying a very high price. Liberal Democrat Deputy Leader Daisy Cooper labelled the Conservative Party as a shell of its former self and said Bagenot had pushed lifelong Tories towards her party in the droves. Nigel Farage's party is shape-shifting into Conservatives in front of our very eyes, she said. Greens co-deputy leader Rachel Millward said Kruger's deflection does serve as a loud alarm bell for the rest of us about the threats to this country if Reform UK were to ever form a government. Yep. I like the fact at the end of here that they've at least included comments from Greens here, as well as just the Lib Dems there. I will give credit to the BBC for that at least. But yeah, a very powerful figure who's been at the top of government has Danny been there, so he will be highly useful for them, sadly. But it was the thing is, it was coming. It was coming, and Kerry's just like the writing. Like, I don't know what it's going to take for the Conservatives to realise. Maybe we should actually apologise for what we did in government, and maybe we should actually, kick out the old guard and actually have a couple of new faces in, like as a suggestion, like rather than just keeping the things the way they are. Jail says, from what I've listened to from Kemi, I think she's just a bad politician. She has no charisma like Starmer. She's just there filling in the shoes of the Tory Messiah that still has not come. I'm talking about Boris Johnson now. I hope not. Hope we don't get Boris Johnson. Harsh to say this, but technocratic politicians are just say more effective and less prone to try and change the statu quo and create a revolution like what happened in the US and can happen in the UK, says Jal there as well. Yeah, I do think they're going to be trying to copy some of that as well. They are definitely going to be trying to do some of that as well. So who could potentially be somebody that could pip Keir Starmer? Now, obviously, there's the deputy leadership race, the Labour deputy leadership race that is happening. But there's this guy as well. Someone that actually I wouldn't mind being Prime Minister, actually. That is Burnham leaders. A plot could be killed off by Reform before it even begins. This is an exclusive from them. So speculation has been growing that Andy Burnham may be planning a leadership challenge to Keir Starmer next year. Now, this could be something. This could be nothing. I think it's worth looking at into as well. What is my partner doing? I can hear her banging the door several times downstairs. So let me read a bit into this, guys. So Andy Burnham, rumoured bid to inherit a safe Labour seat, could be doomed from the start because of the threat from Reform UK, Labour sources have said. So allies of Sir Keir Starmer believe that Burnham, the Mayor of Greater Manchester, is eyeing up a seat currently held by suspended Labour MP Andrew Gwynne as a platform to challenge for the party's leadership. It comes amid speculation that Burnham could launch a bid next year if Labour suffer significant losses at the elections in the seat, Hollywood and swathes of councils. That could be a good opportunity for him to step in. If all these things, yeah, I do expect Hollywood not go Labour's way at all, because they're just talking a lot. In the seed, like I've said this before, I really hope Plaid Cymru do well in Wales. I hope Reform don't do too well. I'm worried that they're going to do too well in Wales. That's quite concerning indeed. Party rules will require Burnham to be a sitting MP before he would be eligible for any leadership race. Sources have questioned, however, whether Labour could hold on to the Manchester seat of Gonton and Denton in any future by-election. That seat is not a slam dunk winnable for us, one source told the iPaper. It has a sizable section of Muslims who may vote for an independent aligned with Jeremy Corbyn, and another sizable section of white working class Reform types. While there are some middle class bits of a nice Manchester too in there who might vote for Burnham, could easily be Reformed for the taking. A second source added that keeping the seat out of Reform's grasp is going to be extremely tough by any standards. It's a seat that's divided by the M60 motorway, with a large Muslim majority on one side and a very white working class majority on the other, they said. It's a gift for Reform if they choose to take it. However, it's a very difficult decision for the party, and he's probably the only one person who could hold it for us. How would you guys feel about him if he was Labour leader? Generally, let me know what you guys think of him. While Gwynne's seat has a majority of over 13,000 and is considered a Labour stronghold, Reform's poll lead and anger at Starmer could make it a dangerous gamble for Burnham. Gorton and Denham was created with new boundaries at the last general election, but its main predecessor seat, Denton and Reddish, has been held by Labour since 1983. The latest MRP poll from YouGov suggests that Labour could hold the seat, with the pollsters predicting Labour could win with 37% of the vote, while Reform would only get 24%. By-elections, however, can be unpredictable and difficult to poll for, fueling party concerns over the safety of the seat. Gowing was suspended from Labour and sacked as the health minister in February this year over alleged sexist and anti-Semitic comments sent on a WhatsApp group. It has not been confirmed whether he intends to stand down from the Commons. The speculation over Burnham's intentions intensified after the mayor launched a new campaign, a group called on Downing Street set to reduce wealth taxes, nationalise utility companies and end the two-child benefit cap. This sounds like the Green Party. Sounds like Green Party politics. Maybe he should switch his allegiances. He's suspected to use it as a vehicle to explicitly criticise Starmer at Labour's party annual party conference later this month, calling for a reset to help the party win the next election. Here's the thing. Like, I think if he was to come in, I think he would do very, very good. Well, I think he would do very, very well as Labour leader. I don't think he would be too easily. I don't think he's someone who could be controlled, like Keir Starmer. But the problem is, I do think that the likes of Blue Labour and those on the right of the party will stop Burnham from getting in. That's the thing. Like, it sounds like in my head, like, because based on like he's a guy he's actually not too bad. Like, he's gotten things wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I know he's not perfect, but I do think he would be a hell of a lot better than a lot of the other MPs right now. Like, if you like, which Labour MPs that like really stick out to you that says to you, yeah, that guy can be the leader of the Labour Party, or that guy can be Prime Minister? Like, does anybody right now stick out, in any of the MPs right now stick out and say, yeah, definitely make that guy Prime Minister? While also being able to push their way, while also being able to argue with the right in order to get a spot. Like, it's very, very hard for me to take him. He's been mayor of Manchester for quite a while now, and he's done a lot of good things for Manchester. He has, yeah. He's done a lot of positive things. You know, I really like what he's done with the buses. You know, that's one of the big positives that you can take from him as well. Burnham isn't challenging as mayor, different ball game as PM. And then who gets Manx mayorship? Yeah, who's going to get the mayor? Who's going to take his spot if he does run as MP as well? That's a good question as well. Clive Lewis, perhaps. Yeah, Clive Lewis does speak a lot of common sense, but he's not pushing himself enough to get himself kicked out of the party as well. What else is there? Reform need to be put into position to be exposed for what they are. If that's them, the leader of opposition, then so be it. Better exposed than pulling grift his way into number 10. I think he's going to end up grifting his way into number 10, regardless of how much exposure you give Reform UK, Ellie. I think it's inevitable, sadly, that Nigel Farage is going to become Prime Minister, because we have a media that wants him to be Prime Minister. You know, I really do think we are going to have that. I don't know if it's going to be at this election or the next one, but I think Nigel Farage is going to be a Prime Minister. It's not. I think it's getting to a point now honestly, I think it's getting to a point. It's not a cap of if he's going to be Prime Minister, but when. Because the mainstream media are allowing him to have all the voices, guys. I like Clive too. Therefore, will certainly be a left term. Yeah, the problem is a lot of the left has been purged out of Labour as well. That's another problem. So Andy being in there, he would not have a lot of friends, I would say, in the Labour government, as a Labour government, if he was Prime Minister. I really don't think he would have a lot of people there. Not impounded by Andy Burnham, interference in Scottish politics on my never. Besides the native munchkins of being ousted out of the city centre, 1-bedroom flats, £250, all built, says Doom Banker. Yeah, yes, said some things about Scotland in the past. That's true as well. That needs to be reminded of as well. There, indeed. So, guys, we've got a couple more stories to go through here on Viewpoint. Just a reminder, guys, that when the show ends, I'll be on Discord for about an hour. So if you guys want to join me for a bit of a chat, you're more than welcome to join me on Discord for about an hour as well. But I've got not one, but two funny videos for you guys here. But first, we have this one here from Broken News, guys. Apparently, the scandal is over, guys. It's all good, guys. Oh God, what's wrong with my... Hold on a second. Why is my screen like that? Damn it, YouTube! You screwed up my screen. YouTube have screwed my screen, guys. Sorry about that. Apparently, the Epstein scandal is now over. Take it away, Larry and Paul.
Welcome to Broken News. Some news just in, the Jeffrey Epstein controversy has come to an end, and it looks like no one powerful is involved in any way whatsoever. Broken News understands it was all a hoax after all, and it's now time to move on. For more on this, let's cross to our reporter, Dick Windows. Dick, what you saying?
It's over. After years of hearsay, conjecture, rumours and verified hard evidence, it turns out there is nothing more to report on the Jeffrey Epstein controversy after all. The well has run dry. The news comes as President Trump says there is actually no such thing as the Jeffrey Epstein client list anyway, and he's not on it either, even though it doesn't exist. But if it did, his name isn't on it, but it doesn't, and therefore it isn't. Among those who are now confirmed not nonces are evil Victorian slimy pantomime vampire Peter Mandelson, craggy old sex-addicted dangly bollocks Bill Clinton, and we have yet to hear if there has been any change in the nonce status of Prince Andrew. Of course, if there's any suggestion at all he might be a royal teddy-bombing, bulbous, snobby bastard, plum-faced pedo wanker, Broken News will update you. We understand that some people named in this story simply forgot to stop being best buds and hanging out with Epstein after his conviction for child sex offences. An easy mistake to make, I'm sure you'll agree, David.
Oh God, yeah.
Others even accidentally spent months working on massive business deals with Epstein after he was outed as a child rapist. But it's become clear that accidents do happen.
Not their fault?
Not their fault, exactly. Well, the end of this story will come as a relief to many people across the globe who'd started to get a little bit concerned that a bunch of incredibly powerful people had been systematically using their power, money and influence to carry out and then cover up years-long sex trafficking and abuse. Those fears can now be put to rest, and Mandelson's been sacked anyway, so that's definitely the end of it all. Of course, Mr. Epstein himself took his own life by strangling himself to death with gloved hands, then hanging himself before later deleting some CCTV to preserve his own dignity, in a move that many say proves his innocence. Back to you.
Glad that's all cleared up now, Dick. Thank you. What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
That's it. That's it. It's all done, guys. It's the scandal is now over. So, yep. If Larry and Paul say that, it must be true, guys. Make sure you subscribe to Larry and Paul and their YouTube channel. Do some great stuff on there. And I've got a very good funny video at the end that some of you guys that came out today that some of you guys have not seen as well. So looking forward to that one. Just a reminder, of course, there'll be a Discord after chat I'll be on for about an hour if you guys want to join me for there. But also, if you guys want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by leaving a super chat or becoming a gifted member. Becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p. As well, there's custom emojis, as well as you become a top tier member, you get early access to additional content, which many of our members already have access to because I've recorded a bunch of videos that will be dropping over the next couple of days. So YouTube members are already getting access to those videos. So if we can reach today's super chat goal on this live stream, it would be greatly appreciated if you guys can. But if you can't financially support me, and that's totally all right, because not everybody has money. Some people are struggling out there, and I totally understand that. Hitting the like button and sharing this across social media is one of the best ways you can do so, and just leaving comments on videos, all that stuff is one of the best ways you can improve the algorithm for this channel. So thank you guys all so much for listening. Now for Nigel Farage. I know. So Nigel Farage has been criticised after claiming the most stable relationships are between men and women. The Reform UK leader was accused of vile homophobia after claims that heterosexual relationships last the longest. And what analysis is this based on, Nigel? What would you like to base this on? Have you been in a gay relationship that we don't know about, by where you've actually done this yourself? Have you been watching lesbian relationships, with women on women, to say that you can tell that their relationships have lasted just as much? Like, it's a daft thing to say, and obviously to claim that to claim that. I mean, there's more relationships between a man and a woman than there is between a woman and a woman and a man and a man. But some people like to be in a relationship with the same sex, and this is just him tying himself towards the whole dividing people, blaming people, taking more pages out of the American playbook, more from the Trump from the Project 2025 playbook. And that's what this is. And yeah, even though people criticize Nigel Farage for it, people will still take it on board. And like, this guy he's a threat to so many people. You know, he'll push the narrative, Nigel, but he doesn't push it enough to go over the top, as some people are in America. But he'll push the narrative wherever he feels that he can here. Now we know Nigel Farage is married. So Nigel Farage, go away video. Nigel Farage has been accused of vile homophobia for claiming straight couples are more stable than gay relationships during the press conference welcoming former Conservative MP Danny Kruger. The Reform leader said that the most stable relationships tends to be between men and women. After he was asked about past comments made by the right winger, who became the first sitting Tory MP to know. Yeah, we already know about Mr. Kruger. There. Questioned on whether he shared Mr. Kruger's view, Mr. Farage said, "I think one thing is for certain is children that have two stable parents have a better chance in life, and most stable relationships, maybe not my example, but the most stable relationships are the ones that last the longest, tend to be between men and women." Oh, what the hell's happened? Stop doing that. Sorry about that. Yeah, of course, Nigel, because obviously your relationship wasn't exactly perfect either. Look, this is just... There are no such thing as perfect relationships. Everyone has ups and downs. There's always going to be instabilities. But there are couples out there of both men and of both women in certain parts of the world where they've raised a child and they've been perfectly fine. So I don't know why this is such a big deal. Why he's pointing this out. And to be fair, I will say this. It is probably true that men and women probably have a more stable relationship. But you know why that's probably the case? That's because there's more of them than there are of man on man relationship and women on women relationship. That might be the case in terms of statistical numbers. But there's no, but unless you've got statistics to back up your claim, you're really just talking out of your arse. And the thing is, he hasn't provided any statistics or any analysis. This is just sharing a viewpoint. Just putting it out there to try and rile people up. That's exactly what this is. I'm not absolute about this in any way. I just happen to think of kids in my country not getting the start at home or the school that they deserve. You know what would really help kids get the start that they deserve, rather than complaining about men and women on women relationships? Yeah, you know what would really get them starting? How about saying about the cost of living crisis? How about saying that there's too many food banks in our country? How about saying that people deserve a better wage than what they're going? How about saying we need to bring energy bills down? You know, we need to bring down people's cost of living bills. You know, we need to make it easier for people to be able to get on the housing market. How about saying things that would actually improve people's lives, rather than talking about things that aren't relevant to people's problems right now? Like this, claiming that whether they're men or women, or men couple or women couple, that's not what's going to fix. That's not what's going to fix. Goddamn link. That's not what's going to fix the. Oh my! Keeps switching to a link all the time. That's not going to fix the problem. It really, really is not. Mr. Farage, who has twice been married, is now in a relationship with Laura Fon, who was accused of seeking to reopen settled debates on gay marriage and adoption. Labour MP Nadia Watson said, "This is vile homophobia that has no bearing on reality. Make no mistake, Farage is seeking to reopen settled debates on gay marriage and adoption in order to stir up further hatred and division. The rights of the whole LGBTQ plus community would be in danger under a reformed government." Yes, they would. But the thing is, they're already being undermined by this bloody Labour government because of what happened with the courts. As if things aren't bad enough as it is. It's only going to get worse for them, guys. It's only going to get worse for them. How about stopping two parents working to pay someone else to bring up their kids? Yeah. How much is the private insurance for the NHS per month, Nigel? Yeah, because he wants, you know, the amount of things, the fundamental change he wants to bring in is going to be so bad so bad. We're going to be desperate for the Lords, for the House of Parliament, for the MPs in there to try and stop them. Stonewall spokesperson said, in the modern world that we live in, families are diverse and come in all shapes and sizes. The most important thing for children is to be brought up in a stable, supportive, loving environment that will enable them to develop and thrive. The Office of National Statistics show that there were 103,816 divorces in England and Wales in 2023, with 1,893 divorces of same-sex couples. Some studies, however, have shown a higher risk of divorce for same-sex couples, especially female couples. Okay, so there's a variety. So this is what the Office of National Statistics are providing. Thank you for the Independent for showing this. 103,000 divorces in England and Wales in 2023. And there is a problem, obviously, that in terms of, I don't want to dive too deep into it, but we know there's a lot of relationship problems right now, but people aren't staying in, there's a lot of people who struggle to stay in long-term relationships. Yeah, a lot of young people these days do have a struggle to staying in those long-term relationships, which can be problematic. I don't know enough about same-sex couples, and I can't speak enough on it because obviously I'm not a gay person, respectfully. But is it fair to say that there wouldn't be breakups and there isn't problems with those couples as well? Of course there are, but it is with any relationship. Every relationship is different, but obviously that number is going to be higher because of men and women, because there's more men and women couples. That's just the reality there. And yes, it is picking on the fringe, as Scott highlighted. The claim by Mr. Farage comes after condemnation of his views on abortion laws, which he described as totally out of date. The Reform leader was criticised after saying it was ludicrous that we allow abortion up to 24 weeks. Look, you are a man, so shut the fuck up about it, because this is something that women should be talking about, because you don't know what's best for women, okay? Considering that you've already had, considering that you're on your second or third relationship, maybe you should shut up about it. Just a suggestion, you know? I might actually be able to talk about it a little bit more, maybe because I actually haven't gone through a breakup of a relationship, luckily. Bless, and hope that never happens to me. But still, I'm a man. I don't know what's the best in terms of abortion. So I'm going to let the women talk about it, because guess what? They're the ones who have to go through that process, not men. As surprise defection on Monday marked the first sitting Tory MP to join Reform ranks in the Commons. The East Wiltshire MP joined. We already talked about all that kind of stuff. He said Britain's broken country. Talked about that rubbish already. But yeah, apparently he, you know, most stable relationships. But again, this is him just trying to get under the skin of people, trying to really get under them. That's really what this is mainly about here. Maybe they're going to try Section 28. What is another Section 28? What's Section 28? Sorry, Stephen Banker. Scott says picking on the fringe things is all for Raj is good for LGBTQ plus stuff. Was doing and literally no harm. Quite the reverse. It's going equality slowly, surely, but steadily. Jal says I think the UK needs to worry about much more important things than gay marriage. Unfortunately, these are culture wars that they want to stir up the far right to distract people from the main issues that are taking place in the UK, the main problems that things need to be dealt with, and it wants to be all about woke. And trust me, when a Reform government comes in, this is what they're going to be splattering and talking non-stop about, is woke stuff, rather than actually talking about real problems that people are suffering. And they're going to be saying, don't worry guys, we're going to get rid of all the immigrants and it's going to make everything better. And it's just like completely missing out the fact that people kind of need help right now, but they're just going to be ignored, sadly. So before we go to our piece from Barline Times, this is an interesting one. We talked a bit about this. We've talked about this in the past already, but we haven't actually. It's interesting polling, I would say, yeah, from this as well. So, should smacking be banned? Poll finds ethnic and regional and divided. So, the majority of parents who oppose a ban on the practice in England and Northern Ireland, a survey for Parentkind has found. So the survey says that people are not so much that most parents in England and Northern Ireland are saying basically they still approve smacking their child, despite the fact that it's been banned in Scotland. I don't know about Wales. Wales you can do it as well in Wales as well. I don't know why they didn't mention. Excuse me. I don't know why they didn't mention Wales. But now originally, Originally, my position was it can depend on the smacking, but that was my original position when we talked about this ages ago. But I guess my position now is there are methods that you can do to subdue a child without the need of actually physically put your hands on them. There are methods that you can do to make to really put the child in a very, very bad light. Like, the thing is that, like, obviously there is a line, but like my generation and previous generations that I know, like, I've never, like, in some cases obviously it's been bad, but in others it's actually been beneficial in certain family couples in terms of discipline, because sometimes the normal standards discipline has not been enough. But I also can understand that the smacking can go too far, and there is lines that can be drawn as well. I'm not going to tell you whether I have been smacked or not. I'm not going to say that. I can't. I'm not going to comment on myself, but I do think that there is some arguments that people think that it is the best form of punishment for children, even though there are more creative methods that can be used nowadays. So, a majority of parents would oppose banning smacking in England and Northern Ireland, polling suggests. The findings from a far bigger annual parenting survey in the UK found that fathers were more likely to want smacking to stay legal than mothers. Londoners were 2/3 more likely to back smacking than people in Yorkshire, and that parents with bigger families were more likely to support physical punishment. The charity Parentkind's annual YouGov survey of almost 6,000 parents came 5 years after Scotland banned smacking, 3 years after Wales followed, and 6 months after the Commons considered legislation that would extend the prohibition to the rest of the UK. The amendment was withdrawn, a move the polling showed was supported by 43% of parents, compared with 39% who felt smacking should be made illegal throughout Britain. The NSPCC, which has backed a ban, said it was disappointed by the findings. Joshua Barrett, Associate Head of Policy at the charity, said, "While we know opinions can vary, the evidence is unequivocal in its findings that physical punishment is ineffective and is linked to negative outcome of the children, including an increased risk of escalation to abuse." Now, in some cases, yes, that is true. But I want to make it clear, I want to make this very clear, it doesn't mean that there are some cases, and I say there are some cases when this is true. But I completely disagree this aspect that smacking does this to the majority of children. I don't accept that premise. Because, again, like I said, there's a lot of people in my generation, and probably some of you guys from the older generations who have experienced it or know people who have experienced it, and people have turned out all right. But there are some cases, of course, where it can have a negative effect. But there are also cases where they can have a positive effect. But, like I said, and I want to stress this, there are much better methods than to actually physically harm your child as well. I am towing a bit of a line. I'm not gonna lie, I am towing a line on this one, because there is a part of me that feels like there is still a place for it, while I know a lot of people will probably disagree with me on it as well. So parents in England and Northern Ireland are allowed to smack a child, providing it is deemed reasonable chastisement. I will say this though, one thing that I definitely do not see is it done in public. I definitely don't see it in public. I think it was a lot more prominent when I was younger in public, and it's definitely a lot less now. Anything that leaves a lasting mark or worse would be open them to prosecution. Yeah, of course. Yeah, any of that's just way too much. Key objection to the ban was that it would criminalise thousands of parents and increase the caseloads of social workers. But if it means that if the parents are abusing their children, does that not mean the social workers have an obligation to look into that? So Bridget Phillips, the Education Secretary, said she wanted to wait and see the impact of the ban in Scotland before considering legislation in England. How long has it been since Scotland had the ban? 5 years after Scotland's ban's about 3 years. 3 years. After the 5 year came 5 years after Scotland banned smacking. So it's been 5 years. Right? So it's been 5 years. Okay. Like, how much more, like 5 years? Are you going to tell me you don't have the data on Scotland after 5 years of smacking, how that's impacted children in Scotland? You're going to tell me that you don't have data, at least for the last 3 years or 3 or 4 years, you don't have the data on that you can't examine to make a conclusion on that? If we're talking about 5 years ago? Just saying. Survey found that the support of smacking was higher among parents of children on free school meals, at 53%. Poorer children. Also, it was also higher though among the wealthiest parents. In those with income households above 150,000, 60% thought it should stay legal. 60%. There were strong ethnic variations. 40% of white Britons wanted smacking to stay legal, compared with 31% of those of Indian ethnicity and 47% of Pakistani origin. 75% of black Britons wanted it to remain legal. Yeah, so it's interesting. These ethnic differences might also explain some of the regional disparities. In London, 55% of parents wanted smacking to stay versus legal, versus 33% in Yorkshire and the Humber. Among parents with one child, the proportion backing legal smacking was lowest at 37%, and this rose to 57% for those with three or more children. I think parents with big groups of children, I think sometimes use it as a means to subdue their child quite quickly, especially when you have a big family. And there was a few court cases at the start. There's not been many in the last 5 years regionally, and there's data. That's what I was going to say. If there's data, why has she not looked at it and made a decision then? Because she's literally saying here, says she wanted to see the impact of the ban. And if it's been 5 years, then surely you can look at the data and then make a conclusion relatively to this. It looks like to me she's just ignoring it. It does look like that way to me, because I do think it's worth looking at. Good to see you, Alison Keir. That be the Ugandan woman, they said, scary woman, so Scott. Talking about something else there. And for Scotland, it seems to be working, maybe at the frustration of a few parents. I do think there would be a great deal of frustration from parents in doing so from it as well. Among parents with one child, the proportion backing legal smacking was lowest at 37%. This rose to 47% of those with three or more children. Baronet said it was time for England and Northern Ireland to stop trailing behind and join other countries in banning smacking. As long as the law tolerates some level of physical force against children, their well-being will always be left subject to different judgments about what is reasonable, she said. This grey area exposes children to harm, and professionals agree that the current law makes their job safeguarding more difficult. Again, I want to make this very clear. This does, because I am sitting on the fence. I'm not fully for banning, and I'm not fully against it. I'm not fully against it. Yeah, I don't accept the premise that every single child that has been smacked ends up going through unintendable drama. I'm sorry, I just don't accept that premise, because if my generation and probably some of your own generation have gone through it, not everyone has ended up having a massive mental breakdown and whatnot. Like, I just don't accept that premise. Parentkind, the UK's largest parent charity, has launched an annual national parent survey in partnership with the Times, conducted by YouGov. The conducted by YouGov survey is part of the biggest in this category, capturing more than 134,000 insight into what parents think about school, education, and family life. That's a very good number of insights. 134,000 there. That's quite significant there. Their mum gave us the slightest treatment, military style, says Joe. Just orders and no talks. Yeah, I can understand if some people aren't keen to talk about their own experiences there. Like, the thing is, I am in the grey area. I mean, I am in the grey area on it. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying that we should ban it or outright. I'm not prepared to go that far. Just putting it out there. There's less child poverty in Scotland. Just saying. I don't know if that. I'm not gonna say I don't see how child poverty is linked to smacking. If I'm honest, if you can find data of how that is linked, I'm more than welcome to look at it. But I don't see where there's a link between child poverty and smacking. If I'm honest, I don't know if that. I don't see that as a link. But that's just my personal opinion. Right, we got one more story to go through, guys, and then we have one going back to yeah, it was an interesting discussion, I would say. Interesting discussion. So I got one like, oh, hi Sturgery's Net, good to see you there. Hope you are doing well. And then just a reminder at the end of this show, guys, I will be on Discord for about an hour. So if you guys want to join me in the live chat, you're more than welcome to as well. So this one from Byline Times here. Give big fines to firms like X promoting hate and disinformation, democracy groups urge the Prime Minister. So without radical change, voters will give supporters to demagogues and extremists who crave power to further their own end, the authors warn. I agree. The likes of social media companies are having too much influence on the public. And more needs to be done like this. Now, in terms of political differences, the problem is that if Keir Starmer was to give massive fines to X, we know exactly what would happen. First of all, X wouldn't pay the fines. Then it would be a case of, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to ban them from the UK? Now, would the UK do that? I don't know if the UK government would go that far. And then the other thing as well is that you're going to piss off America. Specifically, you're going to piss off the Trump administration. Now, are you prepared to piss off the Trump administration? The other thing that could potentially happen in doing so as well is that Trump could end up imposing a tariff on the UK as a direct result, meaning that the entire British population would suffer as a direct result of fining X, while you're trying to fight disinformation from the platform as well. So it's like, what do you do? Because either way, whether it's harming you now, but you're going to get harmed. You could get harmed inadvertently by trying to protect people from the disinformation that X provides on its platform anyway. And the thing is that if you're going to do it to X, why are you not doing it to other platforms that could potentially be doing it as well? Like, I know people talk about Rumble, for example, a platform that I use to it promotes a lot of far-right content on its platform because it considers itself completely and totally free speech, which is why it's banned in quite a few European countries, why some of you can't see the content on there. Like, are we going to ban Rumble because it has because of its content, because some of its content as well? I agree with this statement, but I just can't see it happening because of too many political loops here. Like, I agree with this statement. Like, I think big firms like X and whatnot, I do think they should get fined, but I just don't see it happening. And the thing is, I don't see it getting to a point where the British government would actually threaten to take down X in the UK. I just can't see that happening. I think more people would be annoyed by it. I don't think people will go out and protest, but maybe they will. I don't know. But like, I can't see the UK government standing up to X and Elon Musk and saying, if you don't do this, we're going to basically remove you from the UK. Like, I don't see that happening. And also, what it also does as well is that while it may seem like a good thing, on paper, plays into their hands, plays into the far right hands. It gets them even more further. Plays into Nigel Farage's and Reform's hands, saying Nigel Farage will go, see, Prime Minister wants to take away free speech. See, I was right about him. See, look what he's doing with this whole Online Safety Act. And now he wants to take away, now he's giving fines to big companies who are promoting free speech. And it'll play into Nigel Farage's hands as well if you do this. So I don't know. What do you do about this? So, answers on a postcard, please. So, campaigners are calling on the government to introduce strict penalties for firms like X, formerly Twitter, accused of promoting disinformation and hate speech, alongside another whole of Britain's media, to help restore accountability and trust in public debate. In a letter to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, to mark the International Day of Democracy, September the 15th, leading democracy and civil society advocates also cautioned the PM against the temptation to hoard power in Whitehall as he seeks to get his government back on track. In a new report, Democracy, SRS and signatories Unlock Democracy and Labour's facing group Compass call on the Prime Minister to crack down on disinformation, including sanctions for social media companies doing too little to combat deprived material about matters of public interest. Backers of the campaign urged the PM to use recently announced Phase 2 of his premiership to lead a democratic revolution, rewriting the relationship between Whitehall and the rest of the country and unleashing the full potential of people across the UK. Yeah, this just sounds like government rhetoric, doesn't it? They also want to see a cap on political donations alongside the restoration of independence of the Electoral Commission. Yeah, I would like to see complete banning of political donations, me personally, rather than a cap. But that's just me, guys. That's just me. To ensure a policy serves citizens and not vested interests, the government has previously rejected calls for a cap on donations. But pressure is growing for strong action ahead of Labour's upcoming elections bill. Yeah, that'll be very interesting to see how that does. And they urged the Prime Minister to tackle the expansion of plutocratic control over the media through stricter limits on media ownership to guard against the erosion of fair and objective reporting. So in a new proposal, local communities will also be given financial and regulatory support to take community ownership of local media outlets. So Sir Simon Duffrey, Director of Citizens Network, which comprises 315 organisations from over 50 countries, has said in many parts of the UK people feel dispossessed, while in London a handful of people make all the key decisions. This is why I've always, this is why from someone who does live in London, essentially outside central London, outside London in per se, this is why I always say that more needs to be done outside of London and not within. Quote, we have lost hope that existing political systems will address the extreme inequalities that many of us are turning to more extreme alternatives. We really need a different kind of democracy, one that is rooted in our neighbourhoods and town halls, one where ordinary people are allowed to be involved in debate and deciding things for ourselves. That's why there's something called the Green Party that you should consider joining. And by the way, guys, just as a side note as well, 3 more Labour councillors have converted over to the Greens. That was announced today on Twitter. So more councillors have switched from Labour to Greens because guess what? Zach Plansky has been saying a lot of the right things, what people need. He's offering hope to people, which is what something people need right now. A new Democracy SRS action plan sets out how the government can make the shift, but the report also warns the consequences of inaction. Without serious reform, trust will continue to erode. Disengagement will deepen, and those who exploit fear and division will gain ground. Dr. Henry Tam, former writer and former head of civil renewal for the UK government and author of Democracy SRS, added that weakened democracy is so much easier for charlatans to exploit and bring in arbitrary rules. If politicians don't say democracy while they still can, they'll be the ones to blame when abuse of power becomes the norm under an unscrupulous regime. We've seen it happen elsewhere, and we don't want the UK to end up the same way. Democracy SRS sums up what his leaving advocates are saying urgently needs to be done, that the government should act on it. The report argues that Britain cannot hope to tackle poverty, climate disruption, housing shortages and all health crises without a functioning democracy. Tom Baker, Director of Unlock Democracy, said that the Prime Minister now has a chance to show real leadership by giving citizens the tools, rights and opportunities to bring about the change they want to see. But is he going to do that? This is a moment of strength and democracy, not only for today but for generations to come, Brake said. Groups have written to the PM calling for urgent action. Proposals from the new Democracy SRS plan to tackle mis and disinformation, including setting up a robust financial penalty system to restrain social media companies from facilitating deception about matters of public interest, including the use of AI manipulation to deceive on their platforms. And they want to ensure high standards in the press too, through levying deterrent level fines and enforcement prominent displays of apologies and corrections when a dissemination is detected. The report also calls for guaranteed transparency and accountability from British think tanks by requiring them to disclose their overall funders and the financing of particular reports. And it comes after ex-owner Elon Musk joined the far-right Tommy Robinson demonstration via video link on Saturday, where he was accused of inciting violence, telling migrant protesters that violence is coming, urged the crowd to fight back or you die. On Monday, the PM spokesperson responded by saying, UK is a fair, tolerant and a decent country. The last thing that Britain wants is a dangerous and inflammatory language which threatens violence and intimidation on our streets. British people will have no truck with it, he added. However, there is no suggestion of total regulatory action against the platform and its owner. Yeah, because you're allowing Elon Musk to say these things and get away with it. And I've talked, well, not this story, but there's a similar story I'll covering on Byline Times with regards to it as well. And this is the letter from them to it here. So some of the key measures they've got: going further and faster in developing meaningful power and money-raising capacity to local communities, ensuring decision-making are taken close to communities as possible, setting up deliberate folio to consider controversial politics and engage citizens in solutions, granting local people the right to shape public service, introducing a robust penalty system for social media companies that facilitate deception about matters of public interest, supporting the development of independent fact-checking bodies, capping the size of political donations to reduce large donor influence, and ensuring free and fair elections by restoring electoral commission independence, make every vote count by introducing a proportional voting system. And yeah, those are those, obviously, who have written sincerely with regards to the letter there as well. But yeah, it's not a good time right now for Britain. And I keep looking at what's happening in America, and I keep feeling like we are next, if once reform get in. And regardless of where you are in the UK, I don't think anyone is safe, because I do, trust me, you know, a reform government will go after Scotland. They will go after Wales. They will cut themselves from Northern Ireland because they don't want to deal with Northern Ireland. I do fear that's the direction where we'll be going, unless we do something about the media. I've talked it so many times. It's not just social media, but mainstream media as well. Too much misinformation and disinformation is being fed into people on a consistent basis. I literally saw a video today of a white person who, not a white person, of a brown person who was literally walking past in the street on a Saturday. Unfortunately, she got too close to the protest, and there were people basically heckling her, despite the fact that she claimed and she shouted in the video, "I'm born in this country," and yet they're attacking her verbally for no reason whatsoever, just because of the base of the color of her skin. And there was a young white person as well, and an old woman. It was just really, really horrifying. And we're all going to be in trouble here in the UK, not just England, all of us, if they do come to power. Reform will screw the whole of the UK. They will, yeah, they will, Aston Keir. Is the UK Americanising with having a right-leaning Labour Party and far-right parties? What happens if reforms don't become the government? There'll be a big opposition. Yeah, and by the way, our NHS will be gone. You know, a lot of these people don't realise that reform are going to take away our national healthcare service as well. So the days of having free healthcare will be gone as well. So that would mean more people will be on the dole. Oh, and by the way, he wants to loosen gun laws in the UK as well. You know, so yeah, why not have why not have the right to bear arms in the UK while we're at it as well? Because he wants that as well, apparently. So guys, before we head over onto Discord, because I'll be heading over there in just a moment, we have one last funny video to see ourselves through. I did say at the start of this live stream that there was a video dropped today that some of you guys may not have seen. Now, I've been wondering where this guy has been for a while, but he's back. Matt Green, ladies and gentlemen. And the headline is, and I have not seen this one, I'm looking forward to this, is right-wing activist is shot. But who is to blame? Well, let's find out.
A prominent American right-wing activist has been shot. Details are still sketchy. Our speculation, wild guesses, and just have a pop correspondent, Jonathan Goodenough, has more. Yes, that's right. This horrible event has literally just happened, but people on the right are already pointing fingers. At the left. Do they have any evidence to back that up? Well, the victim was very right-wing, so it seems just common sense that whoever shot him was on the left. Common sense? Yes, and we're getting more and more reaction that backs that up. Commentators and politicians on all sides are attacking the left of this heinous act of violence against a man who was simply engaging in debate. He was rather a polarising figure, though, wasn't he? He was extremely intolerant of minorities and often made statements. Whoa, what are you doing? Just trying to give a bit of context. Are you mad? People don't want context, they want blood. Well, hasn't there already been enough? No, not his blood, other blood. They want revenge on the people who did this, and that includes anybody who tries to justify or excuse it. Giving context isn't justifying or excusing it. You just try telling them that. Everyone from the president down is saying that violence is not the answer, except now when it totally is. Actually, I think we're just getting some breaking news. Jonathan? Yes, it appears that the suspect may not actually in fact be left-wing, although he might once have spoken to a trans person. Is that the same thing? Apparently. We don't have all of the answers yet, but it appears that he comes from a very Republican family and may actually have been even more right-wing than the man he shot. Is that possible? Unfortunately, yes. Or he could just be some sort of nihilistic anarchist whose brain was broken by internet memes and just wants to watch the world burn, right? Or maybe even a time traveller sent back from the future to try and prevent an even greater tragedy. But this is all speculation at this point. Okay, and what's been the reaction to this news? People have started to pivot more towards mental health and indoctrination. How could this nice young man, white man, goes without saying, get involved in such a horrible crime? We shouldn't necessarily want to sympathise, but we should try to understand. Okay, and what about the revenge against the left? Oh, that's still very much on the agenda, even though they may have had nothing to do with it. Yes, but some of them were insufficiently upset online, which is basically the same thing. Is that not their freedom of speech? Well, the right might say that there's still freedom of speech, just not freedom from consequences. But isn't that the exact argument that the right used to hate when it came from the left? Yeah, funny how things go, isn't it? Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, as Keir Starmer welcomes Donald Trump to the UK in the same week that he sacked Peter Mandelson for being too close to a billionaire paedophile who was Donald Trump's best friend, we ask, why is being the close friend of a billionaire paedophile a problem for the ambassador, but not for the president? And who's going to be the first journalist to bring that up at a press conference?
Oh, Matt Green, everyone. Oh, dear, oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, how I've missed Matt Green. I'm so glad he's back for this week, guys, because he's going to have plenty of content with Donald Trump coming to the UK. Oh, do check out Matt Green, and do check out if you got a chance to go on to see one of his tours, feel free to do so as well. But do subscribe to Matt Green Comedy. That is the YouTube channel of Matt Green there. But it's very nice to see him back, because I do like his videos. Definitely get a good laugh out of them, and we need it. We need it. That's for sure, guys. There. And thank you, Alison Keir, for the £10 super chat. You didn't need to give that much, but I really appreciate your support, my friend. Thank you so much. That's very, very generous of you there. I guess Prince Andrew will replace Mandelson greeting Trump. Yes, I guess so, Joe. I guess so. God. Oh, God. Oh, God. Yes, indeed. Right, guys, I am heading on to Discord. I'm going to be on for about an hour, so just probably around about 10 past 10, I'll be on there for about 4. So I'm going to head over there now. So if you guys want to join me on the chat, feel free to do so. I will ping the Discord, wet voice chat I'll be in. So if you guys want to come and say hello, feel free to do so. Although I can't seem to get the camera working, unfortunately, which sucks, but I'll still be able to talk anyway, guys. But for those who, but I want to say massive thank you to everyone who come along today. Thank you, Alison Keir, for the very generous super chat. Thank you guys for all your comments. I really appreciate it. Thank you. If you've hit the like button and shared and all that kind of stuff, really, really appreciate it. I'll be back live tomorrow at 11 a.m. for another Good Morning show. So if you could join me for that, feel free to do so. I also have another show at 6 p.m., not 8 p.m. tomorrow, but 6 p.m. tomorrow for global news. We'll be covering news from outside the UK. There's plenty to cover there, so do join me for that if you can as well. And later on this week, we also have the roundtable, supposed to be myself, the Bin podcast, and Lee Korn on Thursday evening there, guys. So looking forward to that as well. But yeah, if you guys can, hit the like button on your way out, share this across social media, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do check out Rumble and Patreon for exclusive content on those platforms, which is free to check out as well. It is free for some of that content. There is paid content on Patreon, but there is free content on Patreon as well. So do check them out as well on there. And obviously you can find me on all other social medias by clicking. There's a link in the description below, something called the links tree. So if you want to find me on any other social medias besides YouTube, if you click the links tree, opens up all my social medias, so you can find me across different ones on there as well, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.